Okay, just imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, and your brain is suddenly twice as big as it is right now. Would you instantly become a super genius solving the world's biggest problems before breakfast? Or would your body just completely collapse under the strain? Well, let's dive into the surprising and frankly kind of dangerous science of what would really happen.
I mean, it's a total sci-fi classic, right? The idea that more brain equals more power. If we all suddenly had that much extra cognitive horsepower, what's the first thing we'd even do? Would we solve all of our biggest challenges, or would we just invent a bunch of new, more complicated ones?
At first glance, the whole idea sounds absolutely incredible. It really feels like we'd unlock this utopian new chapter for humanity, where all those impossible problems are finally within our reach. And just think about the scale of that dream for a second. With billions of geniuses walking around, maybe we could finally crack interstellar travel or find a cure for cancer. We could all have perfect photographic memories, recalling every single moment of our lives with total clarity. Humanity's progress would just explode at a rate we can't even comprehend. But is it really that simple?
Well, as it turns out, our biology would have a few objections to our grand plans. The dream of a superbrain runs smack into the harsh reality of our physical limits. And the price our bodies would have to pay is absolutely enormous.
Okay, so let's start with the most basic thing, energy. Right now, your brain only makes up about 2% of your body weight. That's tiny, but that little organ is a monster when it comes to energy. It already burns through a staggering 20% of your body's total energy, even when you're just sitting on the couch doing nothing.
So you can see where this is going. If we double the size of the brain, we have to double its fuel supply. That means your brain alone would demand at least 40% of your body's entire energy budget. Just let that sink in. Nearly half of every single thing you eat would go just to power your thoughts. To put it another way, you'd need the caloric intake of a world-class Olympic athlete every single day. Not to swim laps or run a marathon, but simply to sit there and think. Our bodies just aren't built for that kind of constant, massive energy demand.
And believe me, the energy bill is just the beginning of a whole cascade of problems. To even house a bigger brain, our skulls would have to be much, much larger. Our necks and shoulders, they'd need to evolve to be way stronger, just to hold our heads up. For mothers, natural childbirth could become physically impossible. Oh, and all that extra brain activity generates a ton of heat, meaning we'd be at constant risk of our most important organ literally overheating. Yikes.
But okay, let's just pretend we could solve all those physical problems for a minute. Even then, would a bigger brain actually make us any smarter? This is where we run into a really fascinating paradox, because it turns out, when it comes to intelligence, bigger isn't always better.
We've all kind of grown up with this myth, right? That a bigger brain must equal more intelligence. But modern neuroscience tells a totally different story. It turns out that the efficiency of the brain's wiring, how it's all connected, and the density of those connections matter way, way more than its raw physical size.
And we have plenty of evidence to back this up. I mean, look at our ancient cousins, the Neanderthals. They actually had slightly larger brains than we do, but their tools and their culture just weren't as advanced as early modern humans. An elephant's brain is about twice the size of ours, but they aren't building spaceships. And maybe the most famous example of all, Albert Einstein. His brain wasn't any bigger than average. The secret sauce was the incredibly dense connections in key areas related to math and spatial reasoning.
So if it's not the size, what is it? What makes the human brain so uniquely powerful? Well, the answer lies in how our brain processes information in this remarkably elegant and efficient way. It really all boils down to a concept called synergy. Now, that sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's when different pieces of information combine to create something brand new, a result that's way greater than the sum of its parts. A perfect example is your own vision. Each of your eyes gives your brain a flat 2D image. But when the brain combines the signals from both eyes, it synergistically creates this incredible three-dimensional perception of depth.
And that, right there, is our brain's real superpower. Compared to other animals, the human brain, especially our prefrontal cortex, is an absolute master of this kind of synergistic processing. It's built to pull in and integrate complex signals from all over the place to create things like abstract thought, language, and long-term planning. So you see, it's not about having a bigger hard drive. It's about having a much, much better operating system.
So it seems like evolution has given us a brain that's already perfectly balanced for power and efficiency. But now we're throwing a huge new variable into the mix: technology.
And this leads to a fascinating and maybe a little bit worrying new twist in our story. See, for most of the 20th century, humanity got smarter. Seriously, it's a phenomenon called the Flynn effect. Decade after decade, average IQ scores all around the world were steadily climbing. Things like better nutrition, more schooling, and just living in more complex environments were making us, on average, better and better at abstract problem solving.
But here's the twist. In the last couple of decades, researchers in some developed countries have noticed that this upward trend has stopped. In fact, in some places, it has even started to reverse. After a whole century of getting smarter, we might actually be starting to get, well, a little bit less so.
So what on earth is going on? Well, a leading theory is that our own incredible tools might be dulling our cognitive edge. Think about it. With calculators, smartphones, and instant Google answers for everything, we're basically outsourcing our memory and our critical thinking skills. We don't need to remember phone numbers anymore. We don't need to navigate with a map. Are we trading our own cognitive muscle for pure convenience?
And you know, this quote from Professor Robert Sternberg really puts it all into perspective. He makes this amazing point, questioning what all that rising IQ in the 20th century actually did for us. It didn't solve our biggest problems. We still have war, poverty, and environmental destruction. It raises a really critical question. Does being better at puzzles on a test actually translate into real-world wisdom?
So when you look at the whole picture, it seems a bigger brain was never the answer. Evolution already handed us this incredible marvel of efficiency. The real challenge for us now isn't a biological one, it's a technological one. It's about learning how to use the amazing brain we already have in partnership with the powerful artificial brains we're building all around us.
And that really leaves us with a huge question, one we all have to think about. Our tools, our phones, our AIs, they are all getting exponentially smarter every single day. The real question is, are we?